Today, I will be showing you how to come up with this social media flyer in a few easy steps and without wasting any time. Let us get straight to it. So first of all, the first thing that you want to do is to set up your document, right? You want to set up your document, and so if you just go Control N or File, New, the canvas that I'm using is 1350 by 1080 with a resolution of 300. Okay, or let me say 1080 by 1350 because you want to make sure this is in portrait mode, right? So width 1080, height 1350, then hit create. I already have that open, so I'm just going to close this. All right, and of course I need to bring that shoe in here, but before that, what you want to do is to crop out your image. So this is the original image that I had. You can get an image like this from Unsplash. Some good images here. If you just search for shoe, you see you come across these nice few options that you can use in your project, but I settled for this one. So of course I have to go ahead and crop this out, and this will take a second to do, but not something that is complicated. And of course, the option that I settled for in this particular one is I went for the pen tool because I wanted it to be as accurate as possible. So it took a bit of time just cropping this out using the pen tool. And okay, once this is done now, all I have to do now is I duplicate the cropped image here and then turn it to a smart object. So let me just delete this so that I can show you what I mean. So this is my cropped image, and just Control J or Command J to duplicate it, and then right click, convert to smart object. Right, now with that converted to smart object, and the reason why I like to convert something that I've cropped out like this to a smart object is that when I drag it into my project, when I resize it, I don't want it to lose its quality, right? Because that's the thing with using a rasterized image. If you transform it, Control T, and you resize it up and down, every time that you do this, so say I resize it to this size and say okay. The next time that I resize it, something is all right. Yeah, so the next time that I resize this to a bigger size, I'm losing a certain degree of quality, and that is not what I'm looking for. So that's why I like to convert this to a smart object so that I don't lose the quality when I'm resizing. Right, so I'm going to go ahead and drag this now into my project. Okay, like so, as you can see, it's big and nice. So I'll just resize it, Control T, and just make it smaller like so. Right, and of course I want it to be at an angle, so if I go to the corner, once I see that those arrows, I'm just going to rotate it about there, maybe resize it again from the corner just a little bit, somewhere there, and just click enter or say okay. Now what I want to do is I want to add a solid color, right? Now something that contrasts well with green is what I'm looking for, right? So I'm going to go for a shade of yellow, right? So I'm going to go for a shade of yellow that will contrast nicely with that. I don't want it to be too bright. Okay, maybe something like this. Yeah, that should be okay. As a matter of fact, maybe I wanted to get into the orange a little bit. Yeah, I think I'm happy with that. I'm gonna say okay. All right, and it's all about just making sure you end up with what you like. Now with that, the next thing that I want to do is to add a shadow beneath the shoe. So beneath the shoe, create a new layer, pick your brush tool, shortcut is B, and make sure your foreground color is set to black. To reset this to the default, just hit D, and then you get the default, which is the black and white. So right now my foreground color is set to black. Now with that selected, once I right click to get the options for the brush, so this is a soft round brush. Now what I want to do is to grab this from one of these points. If I grab it from here, what I want to do is click, drag, and just turn it like that. So what I'm trying to do is, as opposed to having this brush to be straight like that, I want the brush to create the impression that it's on the floor. So that's why I'm turning this, so that when I paint here now, you see what happens, the shadow goes downwards. So I'm just going to hit Ctrl Z and maybe make this a little bigger using right brackets here, and I want it to come somewhere here. Okay, so as you can see, my shadow is quite very subtle. The flow is set to 29, and of course there's several ways you can do this, right? So I'm going to stick to that shadow, but in fact I want to make it bigger. So I'll hit Ctrl Z, make my brush bigger, because there's something that I'm looking for here, and paint again, or brush, like so. I think I'm happy with that. So that's without, and that's with the shadow that I've just created, and I'm just gonna move it up, nudge it up a little bit. So I'm using my move tool, just nudging this a little bit, like so. Right, so I have that shadow now set. The next thing that I want to do is to behind my shoe, I want to add some text, right? So I want the text to come behind the shoe. So I want this to say new arrival. Okay, so I'm gonna pick my brush tool, or my text tool, shortcut is T, and I want to say new. All right, and I'll just Control T, that's free transform, and make this bigger. I will be using a font called Maze. You can find that in the description. I'm going to leave the link to that. You can download and install that font. So the font is called Maze. Okay, that's the fonts that I'll be using. I'll just resize that. So I wanted to say new arrival. Okay. Once I have that, I'm just going to center it. So what I've just done is Control A to select the entire canvas, and then just with your move tool selected, just center it using that. Okay, Control D to deselect that, and I'm just moving this a little bit up there, and I'm duplicating this right now. All I've done is, while holding the Alt key, drag it down. So now I have a duplicate of that. As you can see, new copy. So I had new. With that, while holding the Alt or Option key, you can duplicate that. Then I can double click on it to edit it. I'm gonna say arrival. Okay. Right now my text is with the type 2 selected. You can see that it's left aligned. I want it to be center aligned so that whenever I change anything, it doesn't mess up things. So I'm going to select both of them and just make sure that they are center aligned. Then again, Control A to select canvas, select your move tool, shortcut is V, align everything to the center. I'm happy with that. Control D to deselect the canvas. Then with this arrival, what I want to do now is free transform, Control T, and just make it smaller. So what I'm going for is I want it to align with this edge to edge. So the other thing that you can do, you can go to Window and look for rulers. Where is okay? You know what? I can't find the rulers here. But the shortcut is Control R. so used to using shortcuts, I can't find the, the normal way to do it. But anyway, yeah, so Control R brings this ruler here. And what I want to do is, when I have this new selected, I just want to put some boundaries around it, right? So that they can guide me. So I'm dragging, so I click, drag, and once it snaps to that, I'm gonna let go and pick another one and put it on the other edge, right? So that gives me some good guides as I'm working. So I can go to this now and resize it again. Matter of fact, what I want to do is reduce the kerning. So here, I'm just going to reduce this like so. All right, and say okay, just click enter on that. And I'm just going to nudge this down a little. Again, with that selected, I'm going to hold Alt or Option key and just drag it down and create a duplicate. I'm holding Shift as well to keep it from moving sideways. So right now it's just moving right straight up and down because I'm holding Shift to keep it from moving sideways, right? So I have my duplicates there. I'm going to let go and just nudge it down a little bit. Now with this same font called Maze, it has another alternative that just has outlines. So that's the one I'm going to pick this time around. I have this which just has the outline. Okay, and I'm going to now duplicate this twice. So I can just go Control J, or I can hold the Alt or Option key and drag down, right? I have that, just nudge it down a little bit, and I can do that once more. All right, and I have my duplicates like so, right? Now the next thing that I want to do is just, I want to pick a rectangle tool right here. And again, this is a good thing about having this guide because I'm able to see the boundaries. So I'm going to pick a rectangle tool and just add a line. So I'm just using it to add a line. With that added, just nudge it down a little bit. And then I'm just going to add some dummy text here. It can be something that you want to say about the product or anything like that. So I'm just going to add that dummy text here, like so. Right, so right now it's going to be big and all, so I want to align it to the left, and then now I can choose the fonts that I want to use for this. So I'm going to go for Roboto Condensed Regular. Okay, I'm going to go for that font, and it's 6 points. I'm going to say okay. Okay, now if I zoom in, probably you'll be able to see this better. Okay, so I'm holding Shift right now to keep it from moving sideways. So I don't want to move it for it to move sideways. That's why I'm holding Shift, so that it's constrained in terms of the path. All right, then I can move it up to somewhere there. All right, I'm happy with that, and I can zoom out. Control O to fit the screen. Control minus to that's just a quick way to zoom in and out. Then if I want to momentarily turn off these guides, I can just hit Control H just to be able to see what's going on. Again, I'm going to say Control H to bring them back, because now I want to put a call to action button to this design, right? So I'm going to pick a rectangle again and just pull out something like that. I want to add a call to action here. It can be call now, buy now, right? So that is going to be my call to action. Now what I want to do with this is I want to make sure that the top is aligned to the top of this other rectangle, right? So I can select this, and if I rename this, I can rename this and just say line. Okay. Now if this line and this rectangle, if I select both of them and my move to selected, I can align them to the top. So they are now aligned to the top, and I just want to move them down like so. Okay, now I want to change the color of this rectangle. I want it to have a green, right? So I'm going to start off by sampling the shoe to get to the green zone, but I want it to be more saturated than it is right now. So just want to increase the saturation of this. Because I want it to stand out, right? That's the point of this. I want this to stand out. So I have that green. I have this selected, my rectangle selected. So with the picker tool, I can get that. Now it's about adding text, and my text is going to say order now. So I'll take my type tool, click, and I'll say order now. All right, so I have that. I'll make it white, and I'll go back to the initial font, which is Maize. Okay, move to shortcut is V, and just drag it up to sit on top of this rectangle here. Just a matter of nudging to make sure everything is okay. If I want it to be perfectly aligned, I can select that and select the rectangle and align center, align horizontal center and the other center, and now I'm sure that it is perfectly aligned with the shape. Okay, so I have my call to action, I have my shoe. What I want to do, the final thing that I want to do probably is I just want to manipulate this shoe a little bit, right? I want it to pop a little bit more, so I'm going to select it, select the shoe. So that's the layer there. I can rename this and just say shoe. Okay, and this is the shadow. I can rename that as well and just say shadow. That's not how you write shadow. Okay, now with the shoe selected, I'm just going to go ahead and just use some camera raw filter on it. I'm just going to go filter, camera raw filter. I want to add some vibrance to it and just sharpen it a little bit, just for it to pop a little bit more, right? So depending on the version of Photoshop you're using, this might look a little bit different. So what I want to do is just to add a little bit of vibrance. I want to add some vibrance, and then on detail, I just want to sharpen it a little bit more. Right, that's too much. I think 32. I'm happy. Say okay with that, and voila. Okay, so now I can zoom out, and I can clear my guides. View, clear guides. Okay, and that's it. We just came up with a social media flyer that you can use in a few easy steps.